are Native people in this community that have been in this community for a long time. Spaces like Colorado Springs need to take that step to engage the process of even just recognizing that Indigenous people were here before any sort of settlement or colonization happened. But those conversations haven't happened outwardly, and so there's an omission of history, and in the omission of history, it gives prominence and purpose to things. So if we don't talk about Native people in history and the contributions or even their existence within spaces that have been settled and colonized, then they don't exist, and that does a disservice not only to American history, but it also does a disservice to Indigenous people, particularly to youth who are looking for representation of themselves in public spaces. That representation means a lot. That's why you get into mascots and you get into stereotypes and all these other things that create a misrepresentation of Indigenous peoples. I don't know that the Springs has ever really engaged in that conversation, but I suppose the best way to engage in that conversation is to just simply start it. And so the red handprint is specifically for missing and murdered Indigenous women. There's been an effort for Indigenous people to bring a little bit more light to the subject, that there are women who are disappearing at a disproportionate rate than anywhere else in the United States. And as an Indigenous person, I care about my relatives. As a father who has 2 daughters, I care about their safety as well. We just kind of fall blind.
So we brought a picture of Cherie Barker here today to make sure that her image is represented. She's a local woman. She was born, raised, and murdered here in Colorado Springs. Her family's from the Standing Rock Reservation. She was killed in front of her 6-year-old son. We can provide support and advocacy and create a sister space for the survivors here in town. Then we can hopefully prevent one more missing and murdered Indigenous women. Like, we have to stop our sisters and our mothers and our grandmas from being another statistic.
I wanted to do a portrait that would just have a significant nod towards the missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit, and then also the intersection of just regular American life. Sage, who's the subject matter, is wearing a t-shirt for her favorite band, and so there's a nod to modern existence, that we have this dual sort of existence where we can be both traditional and modern. It's going to get hot today.
I'm really pleased by the fact that this is going to be a work that is truly site-specific, that is not only specific to the building that it's on, but specific to this community. And so being able to speak to the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit individuals within the context of how that plays out in El Paso County is immensely powerful.
I think we're really lucky to have allies that are in spaces that recognize and realize they need to make room for these marginalized voices, which we're seeing across the country right now with this national discussion of race and equity among people of color, particularly Black, Indigenous, Latinx, and even the gender spectrum. I mean, there's conversations that need to be happening, and I'm excited to participate that on some level.